My name is Steward, as usual, and today I've got a topic which has been at the center of my heart for quite some time, in the sense that there's so many people who are having mental health problems, but where do these problems come from, and where do they start? It's very difficult to predict, because even doctors sometimes will tell you that they don't really know. Now, I've got two guests with me in the studio. My first guest is Della Steward, who's a counselor, a therapeutic counselor, and she's done modeling, she's done television presenting. I don't know, she's been everywhere. Welcome to the program.
Good evening.
Yeah. My next guest is Masembe, Nkata, who is also a therapeutic counselor, and he has been on this program for quite some time. And say hello to our viewers.
Good evening, viewers.
Yeah. Right. The issue of mental health is not easy. How do parents know if a child is having problems? How does a wife know if her husband is having depression or problems? How does a brother know that a sister has a problem? These are things which keep disturbing not just me, but all of us. The signs may have been there for years, but without anybody knowing that there's something wrong. Now, I don't know whether my guests can share some kind of light on, first and foremost, are there signs that one can see that somebody is really getting into trouble? Or is there nothing, that you just wake up one morning and the person has had enough and has lost it? If I may start with you, Della, Steward, you've come through, you've probably seen this, you've counseled people, you've mentored people. Any knowledge about this? Can there be a way of one knowing exactly, or is it a question of guesswork?
Unfortunately, I would personally say that our concentration may not be where it should be sometimes. Okay. That's why the distraction of focusing on other things, maybe the mortgage, maybe the bills, maybe things that are happening externally. And as long as there's food on the table, bills are being paid, roof over the head, some of the internal things may not be looked into or taken time to look into. By the time a parent gets home, gets food ready, washes the clothes, it's time to sleep. They're tired. Weekend comes, they've got X, Y, Z to do. Before you know it, several years have gone past and they turn around and are like, do I know you? You know? The communication, the relationship.
It's a laughable matter, but that is exactly, because anyone watching us would say, there could be something somewhere that maybe a slight sign that he has started saying something that I don't understand. Maybe it's high time he sees a counselor or something like that. In America, they're called shrinks. Can he go to a shrink now or something like that? Even at a place of employment, could there be, because the biggest challenge we face, especially we, the Africans of the black community, is that it's something that we sometimes are even in denial. William? I want to bring you in.
Well, thank you. I like the way my colleague has approached to respond to your question. Whether are there signs? Are there things we miss out, things we should know that we don't know? It is very, very complex issue when you talk about mental health.
Okay.
Usually when you talk about mental health, people interpret it straight away that you're talking about mental illness.
A madman, in other words.
No. Yes. Mental health. Straight away people think you're talking about mental illness.
An extreme.
Not about mental wellness.
Okay.
But to answer your question, and context of the way you've approached the question is that yes, there are signs and symptoms. Some of them you don't need a doctor.
Okay.
To know that there's something wrong, but as my colleague Della has said, but we are so distracted
by what is happening around us.
Exactly. To even ask, how are you? To even ask, can I help? To even ask someone you live with in the house, I could hear you all night.
Yeah.
All the time I woke up, I could hear you.
Yeah.
Is it okay?
Yes.
Did you have a good night? So things, they are signs, they are simple signs and symptoms which literally we can be able to identify and say, okay, and do something. But we're overtaken and overwhelmed by other social, political, and other needs.
Those needs are not going to go away.
No.
They're going to be there. So it's a question of you toughening it up and dealing with it. Just like most people go out there, work, do whatever they have to do.
Yes.
Those problems are not going to be there. They're going to be around us. But it's a question of now, what should we do in order to make sure that, regardless of that, we still have a family, we still have something to look behind it. Because what we seem to have forgotten is the fact that the responsibility comes in and you push it away to someone else.
Yes.
I think that's what she was trying to say. How can somebody deal with that?
There are many ways.
Yeah.
To be really honest, the black community always had God.
Yeah.
And from what I have learned and seen over time, in putting God to one side and putting either materialistic things or whatever else that society tells you to put before God.
Yeah.
Even with our parents, I'm not saying they had it that much easier, but because they kept that communication with the Lord, He was able to say, get up and pray. And they wouldn't be saying, oh, I'm too tired. They'd know that something was wrong.
Yeah.
They know that they'd have to get up and address that. Because if not, turmoil. And the Lord has a way of warning us, of guiding us, of leading us. And when we stop seeking Him and seek the flesh, He says it brings ultimate.
The changing society has been one of the things being blamed now. Society has changed a lot. We are developing. The countries are developing. What used to happen 20, 30 years ago and what is happening at the moment are two different things. A lot of things have come into our lives. The video games, the sports as such. Enthusiasm in sports is not as it was 20, 30 years ago. There were other things that you use to entertain people now, which are not existing now. The things that entertain people now are more than the things that used to entertain people a long time ago. And as those things move in, and with more people moving in cities, I can see a changing society. Maybe we should say that a changing society should be to blame for this?
Not necessarily, because each individual has a responsibility. When a child is in trouble, a child doesn't run to a society, a child runs to their parents.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah, I understand.
So we all have a responsibility.
Yeah. But that child has a video game to play. He's sent to his room to play. He's sent to watch the internet. He's sent. You see, that's what I'm saying. This changing things that have appeared suddenly, because children long time ago never had video games. They could tell you go to your room. You probably watch TV a little bit, but because of the gadgets, the mobile phones, the things, that's what I'm saying, that somewhere along the way we need to start to see how we can curb that
And monitor.
So, yeah, and monitor that, and monitor that. William, what do you think?
I think what you're saying is quite right.
Yeah.
As I said earlier, mental health is a complex.
Yeah.
It is poorly understood,
Mm-hmm.
poorly addressed
Yeah.
by those who are meant to be addressing it.
Yeah.
But every cultures, communities and societies have a way of how to name it,
Yeah.
to define it, and to understand it, but also to deal with it. It is a complex. And historically, there has always been different approaches.
To
Mm-hmm.
it, yeah.
The cultural perspectives,
Yeah.
the medical perspectives,
Yeah.
models, and they all have a role to help people, communities, to understand better what mental illness is,
Yeah.
how it could be accessed, and how it could be sustained for those who have got long-term mental health problems.
Yeah.
To come back and to conceptualize your argument that the changing world
Yeah. Yeah.
has got a role,
Yeah.
the world has always been changing.
Yes, it does.
But I think the duties and responsibilities of individuals and members of communities have been disrupted a lot,
Yeah.
and hence what people used to give back in terms of time,
Yeah.
that is not as much
Yes.
or hardly there. The power of certain people in communities, for example, as a parent, to suggest to a young one that this is not right. There's a lot of influence.
Yeah.
So the power of parent has been disrupted
Okay.
in a way. Likewise, the duties of the children have been disrupted. And the world is changing so fast for humanity to be able to deal with it. And I suppose that's where faith comes in.
Yeah.
Where do you get the power to get the control and to regain responsibility and duties?
Now, you've mentioned culture. Culture is something that has always been very important to the Africans. Our cultural background, our beliefs. Our grandfathers have always raised us in such a way that, our grandfathers and parents have, culturally, there are certain things that we've always been following in Africa. And the breakup of the society, where you used to visit your aunties, you used to visit your uncles, you used to be raised by even the West Indians have it, it's there. It was there where communities were living together, and a child is, as we say in Africa, is raised by a village. It's not raised
by a community.
Yeah, it's raised by a community, sorry, but not raised by an individual.
Amen.
You just bring the child in the world, and the rest is taken over by
Yes.
that. Now, the failure of all those is a key to, from what I can see. Now, if you guys are mentoring, if you are talking to somebody who's coming out of either depression or mental illness, what do you focus on? Because somebody watching now could want to know, what do you focus on the person's past and say everything is going to be okay, and watch what you do? What kind of focus do you have on that person to ensure that you really bring the person back to our society, in a person believing in themselves? Because one of the things that normally first go
self-belief.
Is self-belief. You need to bring that back. How do you bring it back? She wants to have a go at it. No. She wants to have a go at it. Yeah, give it a go.
Each individual is different.
Yeah.
What they've gone through, what they've experienced, the scars, the amount of times that a parent has said no to a child, to the amount of times that a parent has said yes to a child, it outweighs. Yeah. So, depending on how you can get that person to open up,
all right,
that will help to peel back the layers. Not necessarily you're going back into history, but whatever they want to expose, you can bring light to, as well as use your faith. I will use my faith. And not in front of them, but when I get back, I say, Lord, this is the situation. Show me what to do. God knows them more than they know themselves, more than I know. And sometimes, just say, if you know the way to Brixton and I don't, am I going to tell you half the way to Brixton, take a left?
Yeah.
Not logical, is it?
Yeah, no, it's not. It's not.
So, if we know that God knows our children, God knows, what they're going through, who do we contact if we don't know what to do? Who do we contact for direction? The Bible says that we must come as little children.
Yeah.
If the Lord says that we must come as little children, that means our God is not complicated.
No.
And he says, my ear is not short, that I cannot hear you. But sometimes it's our ways. We've strayed from him.
Yeah.
And not seeking the guidance that we're supposed to seek in order to get certain insights that we may not know, to be able to get a door open so that we can get in. Because it's getting that door open that gives you the access.
Yeah, that is the key. William?
Interesting. And I like the way you're approaching this topic, not medical. We're approaching it as real people, with a faith, with a bit of knowledge, and with questions.
Yeah.
What I can relate to what we just said is, in my work of advocacy for awareness in communities, in my work of advocacy in promoting those who are using the services already to be able to feel stronger and to be able to stand up and be counted, but not to be suppressed because they have a mental illness. Okay, this is what I relate with what you've just said. A child in front of the biblical terms or whatever faith, a child is simple.
Yeah, in front of God, yeah.
Until we start to normalize mental health, as opposed to complicate it. Normalize in understanding it, that it can happen to anybody. It's normal. It can happen to anybody. Let's normalize it. That is simplicity. Let's be simple in the way we approach it. Much as we know that it's a complex, but the toolbox and the tools to open up, as you say, taking up the layers.
Yeah. But how do you do this?
The simplicity in that is you have someone you work with who's constantly irritable and angry. Do you go the management way to deal with that? Or is it important for someone to ask, take them on the side and say, why are you angry all the time? Why is that your approach to issues is quite very aggressive? In mental health, when someone consistently presents with irritability, aggressiveness,
Yeah.
we get a sense of thinking, there's something wrong. But who has asked that person, what is wrong? What is going on?
That's what I was saying. The approach itself to make the person open up, because the most difficult thing is that most people don't open up. They actually keep it within. By the time you realize that something's wrong,
Steve, because the culture of work institutions, of churches, within families, we don't talk. Everything is superficial.
Yeah. And there's not much truth.
how does a layman know that something's wrong with William and he needs help now, and he hasn't opened up? Something is wrong. We need to make him open up. How does a layman know? Because this is where the key element has been. You either need to associate yourself with the individual, you need to make sure, because as adults, it's easier for a child, because a child will block it and you'll see that something is wrong. And then you can say, okay, let me try this, let me try that. But a wife, a mother, a husband, it might be difficult for that person to really get to know that there's a depression coming in or something like that. That is where
it is difficult if you're not comfortable to ask.
Ah, okay.
Truth.
So it's a question of asking, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And being honest.
Thank you.
Sometimes adults play this kind of role that's not truthful.
All right.
It camouflages things, and they're not open and honest and truthful. And that causes someone who is apprehensive in speaking what's inside to shut those doors. When truth comes out, truth is responded back. As my colleague said, if someone takes you aside and says, why are you angry? What's going on? Do you know the amount of young men, I mean, bad young men out there that I've taken aside and come here, what's going on with you? You're angry, what's going on? And they just melt.
Open up.
Melt.
Yeah, I think with the adults, the biggest problem they say is the truth hurts. Sometimes it hurts so much in such a way that, if a man has just had his girlfriend kicked him out or he's been had his work, you find it difficult that, that's my problem. Why do I start telling anybody about it? And you feel that, you shouldn't really talk about it. And I think this is where the most difficult thing, because I had a friend who had something similar. And he died a couple of years ago in a hostel here. But he couldn't. We tried to open him up and said, look, everything will be okay. This is what happened. This, don't worry. We tried to calm him down and all that, as we normally young men do. But the thing is, none of us expected that he would go the way he did. But that's one of the reasons I'm asking. The opening up, sometimes somebody, it's so deep that it's very difficult to break him down and let him open.
And one of the common themes we find in people we work with, either in a clinical setting or in a communal setup, when you're asked to speak to someone, is what is very common is, even if I say, what would I do?
Yeah, is it going to help me? Yeah.
So what does that say? It means that the knowledge and awareness that there is help is very limited.
Very.
But there is help out there.
Okay.
So our duties, your duty, and thank you for organizing this program, our duty is to stand out, go out 1 inch more into our communities and promote awareness.
Oh yeah, that's the key thing. Promote awareness. But the thing is the awareness has to be promoted through the pastors, through the teachers, through the people who are through the leaders of the communities, because it's
not necessarily.
It to me doesn't seem. It seems to be a major problem. We have a problem now of knife crime. We have a problem of youth crime as a whole.
Yeah.
And when you look at the government initiative, is to pour money into it. They put more money now into the whole structure. I'm not blaming them. You're not government officials or something. But the question would have been: go deep first into the community, find out, do a survey within the community, and then you can say, okay, we're direct. This is where the money is going to go. But now they put the money there, without even now they have the money because of knife crime is incriminating. So they want to show that something is happening, but haven't done any research on where we should start from. How would you advise the government on this issue now? Because Labour is coming up with some initiative to go within the community and see how we seek some advice. How would you advise the government?
You just did.
I've just advised the government.
You just did.
I didn't notice that. I didn't notice that.
Because where are you going to find what's wrong with the community unless you go into the community?
Yeah, exactly.
It's logical.
Yeah.
You can't just pour money on top of something.
Yeah.
There you can find out what's happening at the root. So that if you need to cut it off, you know what you're cutting off.
Yeah, exactly. What else? I've advised them, but there has to be something somewhere.
Better communication.
Okay, that's another good
Better
one.
communication, better respect for each other. Because where we were our brother's keeper, now we are our own keepers. And in being our own keepers, our children are getting caught in the crossfire. Is that being your own keeper?
No.
Is that going to help?
No, it's not going to help.
So when we're thinking that, my children are fine. They're at college, they're at this, they're at... Really? It's really sad that it's come to that level that we won't make a sacrifice for someone else's child so that our child can have a better tomorrow as well. Aren't they going to be living alongside our child? Or are we living a one-man band world?
Yeah. Of course they will be living next door.
But sometimes it's not seen that way until crisis hit.
Yeah, then they wake up.
And then they're screaming, my child.
Yeah.
So it was someone else's child yesterday.
Yeah. What have you been doing all along?
What's been happening?
Yeah. Yes, William.
It's great. It's very true what you're saying. Just a few weeks ago, someone I know lost a relative. It has never come closer to me. I didn't know this person, but when I was told, I couldn't say a word for more than 5 minutes. I sat there and I was thinking about a person I know who was related to the person who starved to death. So the issue that we take a lot of effort to say, my children, I am protecting my children. And you don't see many initiatives out there with a voice, our children.
Okay.
We spoke about the old culture, we spoke about the disruption, you called it development, sometimes I can't even call it disruption, because the impact of what we call development has critically impacted on the social linkages of humanity. What are these social linkages? These social linkages define duties and responsibility.
Of course. Of course. The key thing here before we go on, I just want to let our viewers know that this program is sponsored. By Omega House, and of course our telephone number is 0208 520 3359. I repeat, 0208 520 3359. And the company does quite a lot of things. Most of them are listed. You're going to see them when you go on our website. But flyers, posters, folded leaflets, brochures, booklets, bookmarks, banners, stationery, business cards, letterheads, envelopes, folders, notepads, greeting cards, invitation, compliment cards, postcards, tickets. Really, you name it, everything is done by this company. So it's a question of really giving them a call. Go visit our website and have a look, and you'll be served. To go back to this, there's something that we've been concentrating on, which seems to be a major problem in terms of parenting, as because everything is now traced down to society, to good parenting, the failures of marriages. The divorce rate at the moment, I think, is one of the highest in the world, not just in this country, but in Africa as a whole. It's coming up. With the fall of the family, the fall of the visits to churches and mosques and other areas of belief, the fall of societies, the changing society, as I said at the beginning, there has to be, should there be money now being spent on people before they get married, in a sense that they go to classes and do some kind of learning or something. I think New Zealand and Australia are trying to introduce, and Japan, it has been there for quite some time. They introduce the nearly wedded couples are supposed to go to some kind of well, they would call it not counseling as such, because it's some kind of education. It used to happen in churches a long time ago, where the two couples who are going to get married are called in by the priests, and the priests teach them for at least a week or so about, now money should be put into there as well, so that the people who will be tomorrow's generation will begin a new life, and with the knowledge of what they're about to embark on, and the children they will raise and all that. This is now being a decision. This is now something being suggested to happen to in most of these Western world countries, because if New Zealand has started it, you could find that the young man who did the killings was an Australian. He wasn't from New Zealand, because they have been trying to go deep into their communities, and now, is this something in any way? Could this help the future generations? Not our generation, but the next generations that are coming up? Because we could suggest something where the government can put the money.
In every job, there's training.
Yeah.
You can't just walk into a job and expect to do the job. Being a parent is a job.
Of course it is.
So there needs to be some training.
One of the biggest jobs in the world.
So there needs to be some training. And where there is no training, it lacks professionalism, it lacks attention to detail, it lacks so many things. And by the time you blink twice, 10, 15 years have gone.
Yeah.
So is it better to get training before you start a job, or get training after you've messed up the job? Logic.
I like that. I like that. William?
Well, I can't agree more. I think training of some sort, some form is required, would be very helpful. Culturally, we used to have a month of travel. A young man would travel to the uncle, a young lady would travel to the auntie.
Aunties, yeah.
It was
it's still existing, by the way.
Interpersonal.
In Africa. It's still existing in certain
but
areas.
It has weakened.
Yeah.
Let's take it and let's believe it. It has weakened. development has disrupted some of the things, and some of the positive attributes have been monetized. Money has taken over the ethics and the morality of some of the attributes to good marriage.
Should government put taxes on this issue as well, so that some of the money goes directly to the education of values, where nearly couples who are about to get married, Japan is doing it.
I think
they put money on that, so that you have to go and get some kind of education.
I think families are very important to the development of a country.
Of course.
Yeah. So if it means that there is some missing link of values, would it not be better to pay the high costs of the outcomes of failures than to pay less by investing in education, as my colleague has suggested?
I think it would require people like you who work in the industry, in the counseling industry, to make this suggestion to the government. You write to the government and say, look, I think this thing should do, because I remember the Archbishop of Canterbury wrote something, but what he wrote at the time, I think he was being practically attacked from all angles when he made a suggestion of something, not exactly like I said, but something almost similar to this. So look, we need to start looking at holding values, and we need to start looking at why our churches, some churches are closing down, the Anglican churches, and while other churches that are coming are those churches that the pastors are earning a lot of money through individualism and all that, but they are saying, look, we need to address this issue. So he didn't, as a pastor, as a bishop, the whole thing wasn't really addressed properly, and I think the media took it in a different ball game when he brought it out. But I'm saying, if it comes from people like you who are at the front line of this, it will carry more weight.
Can I?
Yeah.
Just briefly, I think what the Archbishop did is what I would call leadership.
Yeah.
That leadership should be from every angle of our society, not necessarily people on the front line. For example, it will be unfair to you gave the government the answer.
Yeah.
Yes, he did.
To address that issue without involving the children. What are the children saying?
Yeah.
The views of the children.
Yeah.
Do people know how children are suffering? Because two people who cannot understand each other at one stage of their love time,
Had the children.
that at one stage they don't get on, and they make decisions which are hurting the children.
The children,
Yeah. So the voice of the children, or the voice of everybody,
Communication.
is important. The voice of everybody should be
Heard.
to inform what will work better.
Yeah, but there is a tendency that if it comes from somebody who is at the forefront of the whole thing, you're more likely to listen to that voice.
Yes.
Yeah? If the police, for example, are now warning about where the youth problems are, obviously the government is going to listen. If the church leaders are warning over something, they will definitely listen. And that's why I was saying, that's why I mentioned both
That's
of you
Steve?
guys.
That's what my colleague here, the Lituano, that's what she's doing.
No, that's what she's informing. You're informing the government, in other words, over this issue. You're letting. Yeah?
I'm not saying it's not necessarily the government. She's standing up, to say it. What is required. I am doing that. You've been doing that in different settings. And my suggestion is that let's continue to do more of standing up, taking leadership, to something which we think would be good for our communities, instead of being recipients of decisions,
backlash.
the backlash.
May I say that
Yeah,
Sorry.
okay, go ahead.
all of us are leaders.
Yeah. In our own way.
Every parent is a leader. Every parent. Every parent is a leader.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be looked at so narrowly. We're all leaders. And what sometimes we don't realise as parents is that children and young people don't look more at what you say, they look at what you're doing.
Yeah. Okay.
If you're giving lip service and your actions are not backing it up, they will tell you faith without works is dead. It's completely dead. Because you're not backing up what you're saying.
Practice what you preach.
Practice what you preach. So that they can be trained even when they're not looking for training.
Ah.
Do you understand?
Yeah, I do.
Sometimes that's where the key is. You're training them just in the way you live, just in the way you stand, just in the way you hold yourself upright in life.
It goes to back to what I was saying. You were never trained yourself. How do you expect to train another person when you were never trained? As you said earlier on, that education is. If you had been trained,
it would have been a lot easier.
That is why the Japanese, the New Zealanders, and all are saying, look, if we begin with those who are just coming in, the 18 to 20-year-olds who are thinking of getting married tomorrow, and we train those, they will train their children, in other words.
Yes.
And in the next generation will be different.
Yes.
Japan is doing that because they know they need to hold on to their culture. They need to hold on to the values that hold their culture together. If they fail to do that, their culture is gone.
Yes.
That's why they, however developed they are, they hold on to their language, they hold on to the beliefs, they hold on to whatever you're going to throw at Japan, because the next generation is taught already. They're taught to clean at 6, 7 years old, in their schools. Now, they were showing the documentary last time. They go and clean their school. You do that here, it's child cruelty.
Yes.
And the laws come back. So again, we come back to probably the laws as well. It comes back to the laws of the country. Should we do something to change the laws?
Well, when we've changed the laws in our homes first.
Yeah.
Because where does it start?
Yeah.
It starts with your home.
Of course.
So attitudes need to be monitored in the home before you can step out of the home. And as you start living in a certain way and it starts to rub off, because it just doesn't rub off on your child. The friends that your child brings round,
exactly.
It rubs off. It rubs off.
The problem I still have here is the kind of crisis that is existing, especially with the knife crime, and then of course the depression and so on. It's still something that still needs to be solved in one way or another, and this is where community leaders, as William was rightly saying, can come in. The church leaders can come in, and all the others, because the government has a different mode of way it goes, and it only listens to the voice that is shouting loudest. Then they will listen. If there's no voice listening, and this is how do we get all these several churches together or several of these community leaders together to bring up the voice and say, hey, we're having enough of what is happening, but this is what we want to do, and if there is money, please give it to us. Then we spread this money. We see how we can be educationals, teach people within our community. Don't you think this is where the whole thing should go? Because if you don't shout, what I've been telling my Africans and black brothers, you don't make noise. Nobody's going to come to your rescue.
I believe that every little helps.
Yeah.
prescriptive means sometimes are deemed to fail. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
But giving organizations, giving communities in their formations and their constructs the will to do what they're good at in addressing those issues we are addressing today,
Mm-hmm.
as long as the outcomes of what they do promotes good mental health. You just mentioned, you gave an example of Japan.
Yeah.
Culture, in terms of development, they are up there.
Mm.
Culture, they are up there.
Yeah.
Their social systems, they are up there. They're putting money at the right places to
Yeah.
train.
At the right time, yeah.
All those initiatives have got a positive impact on mental health.
Yeah.
What am I saying? What I'm saying that everybody who's doing something, yeah, should be given support,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
to continue to do what they are good at, with a view that they are aiming at contributing to the good mental health of the nation state. Hence, you have been a witness.
Yeah.
I'm the clinic. I'm the cultural lead of the Buganda community in UK.
Yeah.
We've taken some initiatives to address that.
Yeah.
We've organized seminars on knife crime and mental health as well. We have collaborated with other small groups, because in small groups people can be very innovative,
Of course.
and they're very close to those communities. But collaboratively, you can learn from each other and contribute to each other's development, and to curb the ills of the community, which is crime and raising mental health problems.
One of the biggest problems that I don't know, I might need your help from here, in the sense that we've discussed it on this show a number of times, because Africa Speaks is speaking to the Africans and is speaking to other people as well. Individualism is a major problem, not just for Africans, but for other people as well. It's entered the Western world now as well. It never used to be. That's why Britain is leaving, Europe. Individualism, in a sense that we can discuss something here. And when it comes to say, okay, let's have 6 or 7 churches get together and they have one voice to fight for something. So it's not happening, because the individual churches, the individual pastors want to look at something in a different format. The same with the organization. William, you've been a witness. Various organizations. Let's link together. If you ask the money together for something we want to do, because we are in a similar field, others will back out. And yet, the strength comes in numbers. How do we tackle this? I know it's nothing at all to do with the subject we are on, but it has an impact on solving the problems that we have. How do we deal with that?
What I'm hearing you asking,
yeah,
is what are the challenges of solutions?
The thing is, the challenges are there.
Yeah.
It's just to get together. But the solution of curbing individualism,
yeah,
so that me and you can sit down and come up with something.
yeah. My understanding was that when you say individualism,
Yeah.
you're looking at the challenges of what the solutions could be.
Individualism, what I mean, to make it simpler for you, is that 2-3 churches, one church member, a pastor, may come up with a solution, and he approaches other churches and say, let's sit together. And the other churches are saying no, because they all have different earning powers. They don't want that term to it. They apply for money in a different way, or they do things in a different way. So we end up just like African countries. Yeah, we end up by saying, can we stand as one voice and say something? They will listen to you because you've come in as one. I mean, United States, that's how they started. They never fought to conquer other states. No, they start by saying, if we are together as united and united as a nation, we are going to be bigger, and they became bigger.
Can I remind you one thing which I said earlier?
Yeah.
When you throw money to solutions, to efforts and initiatives, without a deeper critical understanding of what the problem is, you're creating individualism.
Oh, right.
When you throw money to systems which are privatized, churches have been privatized.
Yeah. Okay.
Whereby the organic linkage of discharge to the people coming to that church, is money, not the spirituality of being part of that group. It is a complex.
Yeah, it's a complex situation. Yeah, Della?
This is why sometimes the Lord will bring in different people from different places to come together.
Yeah.
To work under one agreement.
Your voice
professionally,
is very low.
under one agreement, professionally.
Yeah.
To gain the goals that they've set out to.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah,
and not have different groups with different opinions. When you go to a company, as I said before, when you go to a company and you want to work for that company, you have to find out the rules.
Yeah.
How they play their game.
Yeah.
And comply with it.
Yeah.
Sometimes when money is thrown at something, the main objectives go out the window. You see, when people are doing things without money, and you see where their heart is.
They're very successful, yeah.
You see where their heart is.
Yeah.
Where sacrifice is made. I keep referring back to the Bible because the Bible says that I will see how you're working with the little.
Yeah.
Then to know whether I should expand you. Not run and just throw onto anything.
Yeah.
That's unwise.
Yeah.
And we have to walk in wisdom. If we don't walk in wisdom, wisdom's crying out in the streets.
Yeah.
But who's picking it up?
We.
And it's priceless.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
It's priceless.
Yeah.
Money can't buy wisdom.
No, of course, no, it can't. Yeah.
Just me talking to me talking to someone for 5 minutes can break down so much that money implemented in them may not have been able to do.
Yeah.
I agree.
The media is a key element into fighting most of this. A key element, I say, because when things work out with the media, when people put adverts in newspapers, they put adverts, they put written articles, or they put photographs and stuff like that, they carry more weight. And that is what has brought the government out, because of the current situation in anywhere, the names and all that, people who are being killed because of knife crime, to get into its pocket and put money out. In your professions, both of you, is it going to work? Can it work out in your ways if you advise and put these outlets out in the media? Do you use the media as such to carry your weight, or so that I mean, you might not mention names of people who really need help, but your position could be such that when you write about it, when you put articles in there, when you put photographs in there, say, hey, this is the crisis we are facing. Most people would probably reach out and say, oh, I have had this.
I think media has got a big role to play.
Yeah.
We have to learn ourselves in our respective roles to use it better.
Yeah.
And my only concern is that the media needs to go beyond talking about numbers.
Yeah.
Because these are not just numbers, but people. For example, for the case of knife crime.
Yeah, yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah? We wake up every other day, and the first thing you see, the third killing in a week. But what does that mean? Yeah? Possibly, maybe one can argue that that's not the duty of the media to go beyond that.
Yeah.
But my call will be to anybody who's got concern and interest in doing something. We need to go beyond what the media does.
Yeah.
It's not about 10 people have been killed and then everybody sits back and wait for the 11th one.
I see your point.
So my call is anybody who's involved in community work, faith-based organizations, professional groups, we need to come up, we need to stand up.
Yeah.
Because because of the complexity of the nature of these problems, they cannot be defined by one outlet.
Yes.
There's interconnectedness.
Yeah. The key thing I was looking for is the roles that, say, counselors, people who deal with who are the front line are saying something that the government has to listen to. I mean, mental health, depression, these are issues that we normally don't. Sometimes they are not at the front of the newspapers. They are not something that, yet it will affect at least 1 in 5 or 10 of us. But somewhere along the way, cancer is more mentioned, this is more mentioned, and it doesn't, maybe if this has been at the forefront as well, we wouldn't be seeing the problems that we're seeing of knife crime. What do you think? Because if we put it at the forefront, it goes back again to individualism. You got to fight to get this whole thing into the light, so that everybody will say, hey, I think we need to listen to what they're saying, because they have a point there. Because rather than wait for people to come to you when they have a problem, how do you deal with the fact that let's not wait until they come when they're on the ground?
I go to them.
You go to them?
I've been going to them for over 20 years now.
Oh, right, that's great.
I wouldn't know the information that I do if I didn't.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you wouldn't. Okay. That's very great of you. Yeah. Right. We are coming towards the end of the program, and before we go, I want to say once again that thank Omega House for the work that it has done in of course, sponsoring this program, and I do look forward to more sponsorship. But before I go, I'll give you the telephone number once again. So 208-520-3359. That's the number, and you can also go on our website and have a look at some of the things that we do, especially with the Omega House TV. Right, I just want to thank both of you for. I know you probably wanted to say something. Have you got anything last minute, something to say? Because I think we have a minute or so to go.
My message is, anyone out there, make an effort to join hands.
Yeah.
Shout out what you do, and let's form what we call self-healing communities.
Okay. Something that
I agree with that gentleman there.
you agree with him? Right. I just want to say thank you both of you for
Thank you for
coming to
having
the
us.
program, and I hope viewers have gained some inside knowledge as far as mental health and depression and other brain brain issues are concerned, because they do affect so many of us. I do hope we'll be together again next week for next week's program of Africa Speaks, and I look forward to it. Thank you very much. May God bless you.
Thank you.